Hello, this is Erin Contratti, School Improvement Specialist for Sullivan County BOCES. Thank you for joining me for Using STAR Data in the Real World, the COVID Catch-Up Edition. This past December, Renaissance Learning released the first-of-a-kind national study on the effects of COVID-19 on student learning. They drew upon a sample of more than 5 million students in grades 1 through 8 from all 50 states, plus DC, who took STAR Early Literacy, STAR Reading, or STAR Math assessments during both fall 2019 and fall 2020. Using historical growth norms drawn from pre-COVID years, they established reasonable estimations of how each student would have been expected to perform in fall 2020 had the pandemic not struck. Each student's observed performance was compared to their expected score, with results presented by subject, grade, and subgroup. The impact depends on the grade level. In reading, students in many grades were performing close to expectations, but in others they were as far as 7 weeks behind. For math, all grades showed students were performing behind expectations, with some grades 12 or more weeks behind. There's evidence of small differential impact by student subgroup, with students who are Black, Hispanic, or American Indian experiencing slightly more negative impacts than the overall averages. Students attending schools serving low-income families were also more negatively impacted, as were students attending schools in rural or town areas, as opposed to urban or suburban areas. While these differential impacts are concerning and should be monitored throughout the 2020-2021 school year, so far they do not appear to have widened existing achievement gaps by race and ethnicity. Please remember that all of these statistics should be taken with a grain of salt, as these results could be skewed by student subgroups that are missing. Nationally, 1 in 4 homeless students have not returned to school since the closures last spring. 1 in 3 students nationally don't have access to adequate technology, and many students, especially in wealthier demographics, are being tutored or homeschooled, and it's possible that students, especially in the younger grades, may have had help on the test from parents or caregivers. Bearing all that in mind, U.S. students in grades 1 and 2 actually exceeded expected achievement on the STAR reading test in fall 2020. While there was some backslide in other grades, it wasn't terrible. If you're wondering, like I did, how a change in percentile rank could be calculated when it's a measure of performance as compared to other students, the scores were converted to normal curve equivalent, or NCE, to determine change, and then back to percentile rank. Math, on the other hand, is a different story. All the tested grades showed learning loss. The loss in grades 4, 5, and 6 is truly alarming. If you notice that grade 1 is missing, that's because they wouldn't have taken the math test as kindergartners. The last 2 slides depicted achievement. Projected versus actual growth is a little more problematic for reading. And once again, a huge backslide in math. So to start framing this information in instructional terms, this chart depicts the amount of instructional time U.S. students fell behind in reading and math from fall 2019 to fall 2020. Remember, green is math and blue is reading. So what does this chart tell you about math? Students in grades 5 and 6 fell 12 or more weeks behind expectations. Students in grades 4, 7, and 8 were 8 to 11 weeks behind expectations. And students in grades 2 and 3 were 4 to 7 weeks behind expectations. And what does this tell you about reading? Students in grades 4 through 7 were 4 through 7 weeks behind expectations. Students in grades 1, 2, and 8 were close to expectations, plus or minus 3 weeks. And students in grade 2 were actually ahead of expectations. The bigger question is, what can be done about it? Identify focus skills that students need to be successful in later learning and adjust the curriculum and pacing guides accordingly. Identify focus skills that are coming up in your next unit. Check your most recent STAR reports and pre-assess the focus skills coming up next. Pre-teach or remediate just enough for students to succeed at the grade level and be able to move on next year. Monitor the focus skills for growth throughout the unit and assess before moving on. The definition of focus skills: focus skills support the development of other skills in the same year or in future years. They're essential to the progression and/or are central to the emphasis of the particular curriculum. In math, 20 to 30% are focus skills. Algebra 1 has the most. And in ELA, 43% of the skills are focus skills, and grade 1 has the most. Doug Lemove, author of Teach Like a Champion, says, when you're practicing the focus skills, don't stop when your students are proficient. Your goal is excellence. And if you have students who seem to get things quickly at depth of knowledge 1 or 2, don't move them until you've checked 3 or 4. So here's how to check for focus skills. Go to renaissance.com/focus-skills. Choose your content area and the focus skills for New York. Locate your grade level in the bar chart. The key on the left shows the domains, so you can see at a glance the most important domains in your grade. Hover over the bar for your grade to see how many focus skills there are. Click the color for the domain you'll be working on next to see the focus skills in that domain. Click Details to see all the focus skills for the grade, along with the description and its position for the overall learning progression. If you wish, click Print Grade to print all the focus skills for the grade, and look at the prior grades for prerequisite skills. Let's have a look. Okay, there's our focus skills. And right now we're focused on literacy and the New York standards. You could switch to math, and you can also switch the state here. There's a key on the side which shows the domains and the subdomains. And here's a quick look by grade level. Lets you see the grade and also where the focus skills primarily are, and kind of an idea of how many focus skills there are. You see how many focus skills there are for kindergarten and first grade. So you can click the color of the domain you're working on, such as craft and structure. Then click the details. Well, you see the focus skills for grade 5. Then you can click details to see the focus skills, also the descriptions. And Renaissance Learning ordered all the focus skills, all the next gen skills for each grade level as a continuum going from pre-K right on through grade 12 actually. And they identified focus skills, and the position in the learning continuum is noted here as well. And if you open any of these drop downs, you can see other domains, the focus skills and the descriptions. You can print the whole grade right here. And you can also look at prior grades for prerequisite skills. So here's how to look at student data. Open your STAR reports and go to the Instructional Planning Student Report. For each student, you can see their screening level at a glance, then scroll down to the domains to see what the student is ready to learn next at the grade level, where they are ready to learn next. Take note of student readiness on the focus skill you're planning to teach next. Prepare a brief pre-assessment that includes tasks for the unit's focus skills at grade level, along with the most relevant prerequisite skills. After verifying students' readiness level for the new skill, plan how you'll pre-teach or scaffold those students who need it. And here I have a couple of screenshots. You can see the student's intervention level here. The student is pictured as in need of urgent intervention. You can see their scale scores, projected scale score, percentile rank, Lexile range, and instructional reading level. So when you're teaching this child, they could be taught at roughly a 5th grade level. But for independent reading, we want to look for Lexile ranges from 765 to 915. And scrolling down to the focus skills the student is ready for next, you'll see all of these skills that the student is ready to learn next at the 6th grade level and one at the 7th grade level. But also notice some of them are identified as focus skills. Those are the ones that you want to concentrate on. So here's an example. For grade 6 literacy, the standard is explain impact of figurative language on a text, and specifically explain the meaning and impact of figurative language. For example, metaphor, simile, hyperbole, personification, and literary texts, including poetry. Now, if we want to look back at the prerequisite skills, determine the meaning of figurative language. So you see the difference between these two grade level standards. 5th grade, we're just determining the meaning of the figurative language. And in 6th grade, it becomes more rigorous and we explain the impact of figurative language on a text. And you want to look both ways in your pre-assessment. So we'll look back a little further. The grade 4 prerequisite explains simple similes and metaphors. And even further back to grade 3, explain non-literal language in literary text. But if we look ahead to 7th grade, the standard is analyze how figurative language affects a text. So now we're moving to analysis. How could you design a brief pretest to see where students are in terms of this skill? You could go to Castle Learning and easily make up a pre-assessment from the question bank, or you could assign a short passage with a set of questions that progress through the grade levels. Mini lesson, teach back for review, small groups, video, accelerated reader, intervention texts and assignments are some ways that you could pre-teach or scaffold this skill. And just a quick review of Webb's depth of knowledge. Remember, if students get it quickly at 1 or 2, don't let them move on from a focus skill until you've checked them at depth of knowledge 3 and 4. So depth of knowledge 1 is simple recall and reproduction. So those are questions that are going to have one possible answer. Depth of knowledge 2 is basic application of skills and concepts. How did it happen? Why did it happen? How does it work? Why does it work that way? And when we get deeper, depth of knowledge 3, strategic thinking. How can you use it? Why can you use it? What's the cause? What's the effect? What's the reason? And what's the result? And depth of knowledge 4, extended thinking. What's the impact? What's the influence? What's the relationship? What if? What would happen? What could happen? What do you think, feel, or believe about this? And here's a bonus when you're pre-assessing your focus skills. If you find that your students are already performing at or above grade level on a skill, you can spend less time on it. That saves time for skills that need more attention. Thank you for joining me today for using STAR data in the real world, COVID Catch-Up Edition. I'm Erin Contratti for Sullivan County BOCES. Have a great day.